Close your eyes for a second. Picture the life you actually want, not the life you settled for, not the life other people expect from you. The one that lives quietly in the back of your mind. The version of your future you rarely say out loud, because saying it out loud makes it real. And real things can be lost. Now open your eyes. What's standing between you and that life? I'll tell you what most people say. They say it's time. They say it's money. They say it's circumstances, connections, luck, the family they were born into, the city they live in, the hand they were dealt. And some of those things are real. Life is not equally distributed. That's true. But here's what's also true, and this part stings a little. Most of the gap between where you are and where you want to be isn't built from circumstances. It's built from decisions. Thousands of small, quiet decisions you made, or didn't make, over weeks, months, and years. The alarm you snoozed, the book you bought but never opened, the plan you wrote and then abandoned, the version of yourself you promised to become, next Monday, next month, next year. There's a mirror in your house. You walk past it every single day. But when was the last time you actually looked at the person in it? Not to fix your hair, not to check your appearance, but to look them in the eye and ask, am I giving this life everything I've got? Most people can't do it because the answer is uncomfortable. And I don't say that to shame you. I say it because that discomfort is a signal. It means part of you already knows the truth. Part of you already knows what needs to change. Part of you is tired of waiting for a version of your life that isn't going to arrive on its own. Here's where everything starts. Not with a grand gesture, not with a perfect plan, not with someone handing you an opportunity on a silver plate. It starts with honesty. Honest about where you are. Honest about what you've been avoiding. Honest about the gap between who you are today and who you know you're capable of becoming. That honesty is the foundation. And without a foundation, nothing you build will stand. So before we go any further, get honest with yourself right now. Because the rest of this only works if you do. There's a story we tell ourselves. It sounds something like this. When things settle down, I'll start. When I have more support, I'll go harder. When someone gives me a chance, I'll show them what I'm made of. It's a comfortable story. It keeps us warm at night. It protects us from the terrifying reality of full effort. Because if you never fully try, you can never fully fail. But that story is a lie dressed up as patience. Here's the truth that changes everything. Nobody is coming. Nobody is coming to hand you the discipline you haven't built yet. Nobody is coming to make the phone calls you keep putting off. Nobody is coming to choose your attitude in the morning. Nobody is coming to do the reading, the training, the practice, the grinding repetition that separates people who talk about their goals from people who actually reach them. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. That's harsh. What about community? What about mentorship? What about support systems? And yes, those things matter. They're real. The right mentor can shorten your learning curve by years. The right community can pull you forward when your own motivation runs dry. I'm not dismissing any of that. But here's the line that most people miss. Support can open a door, but you still have to walk through it yourself. Nobody can want it for you more than you want it for yourself. Nobody can transfer their drive into your body. Nobody can loan you their discipline and expect you to pay it back later. These things cannot be borrowed, gifted, or inherited. They can only be built by you through action, through repetition, through showing up when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable and you genuinely don't feel like it. And when you finally accept that, when you stop scanning the horizon for someone to save you, something extraordinary happens. You stop wasting energy waiting. You redirect that energy into moving. The moment you accept full responsibility for your life, you take back the power you've been giving away to circumstances, to other people, to timing. You stop being a passenger and start being the driver. That shift, from waiting to acting, from hoping to doing, is not a small thing. It is everything. So let me say it plainly. Nobody is coming, and that is not a tragedy. That is your freedom, because it means your future hasn't been decided yet. It means the next chapter is still blank, and the pen is in your hand. Let's talk about something that feels harmless but quietly destroys lives. Excuses. Not the dramatic ones. Not "I gave up on my dreams because of one terrible day." It's never that obvious. It's slower, quieter. It sounds like, "I'll start after the holidays. I'm just not a morning person. I don't have the same opportunities as other people. I work better under pressure. I'll do it later." Each one on its own sounds reasonable. Each one has a grain of truth embedded in it. And that's precisely what makes excuses so dangerous. They're believable. But here's what excuses actually are. They are a trade. You trade your future for your comfort right now. You trade what you could become for the temporary relief of not having to try today. And the cost doesn't show up immediately. That's the trap. You don't feel the damage of one skipped workout, one postponed task, one abandoned commitment. But over time, those individual trades accumulate, and what you're left with isn't bad luck or unfair circumstances. It's a pattern, a habit of avoidance disguised as rational thinking. Think about the things you said you would do 6 months ago. How many of them happened? Not because you lacked ability, not because the goal was impossible, but because somewhere along the way, an excuse stepped in and you let it. Here's what nobody tells you. Successful people face the exact same resistance you do. They wake up tired. They have bad days. They face setbacks, self-doubt, and moments where everything feels pointless. The difference isn't that they feel less resistance. The difference is they don't negotiate with it. They've made a decision, not just once, but every single day, that their excuses do not get a vote. That the discomfort of taking action is always better than the slow pain of standing still. Complaining is the cousin of excuses, and it works the same way. Every time you complain about your situation, you're reinforcing the idea that your life is something that happens to you rather than something you create. You're handing control to the outside world, and the outside world is not interested in your dreams. So here's the practice, and it's a simple one, though not easy. Every time an excuse forms, ask one question. Is this true, or is this just comfortable? Most of the time, you already know the answer. Let me paint a picture for you. It's 5:30 in the morning. The city is quiet. Nobody's watching. Nobody's going to know whether you got up or hit snooze. There's no audience, no applause. No one to post this moment to, no one who will congratulate you for it. It's just you and the choice in front of you. This is where lives are actually built. Not on the stage, not in the highlight reel, not in the moments of public success that people see and admire from the outside. Those moments are the surface. What's underneath? The invisible, unglamorous, repetitive daily effort. That's the structure holding everything up. Most people want the result without the process. They want the body without the training, the skill without the practice, the confidence without the years of doing hard things. And when they see someone who has achieved something remarkable, they focus on the achievement and forget that somewhere behind it is an enormous mountain of private effort that nobody ever saw. Success is not photogenic. It looks like sitting down to work when you'd rather not. It looks like doing the same thing again on a day when it doesn't feel rewarding. It looks like choosing discipline over comfort, again and again, in moments nobody witnesses. And here's the thing about private effort that most people underestimate. It compounds. One good decision makes the next one slightly easier. One day of showing up makes the next day more likely. One week of consistency creates a groove, a pattern your brain starts to recognize and reinforce. The first few weeks are the hardest because you're building the groove from scratch. But if you stay in it long enough, something changes. It stops feeling like a fight. It starts feeling like identity. You stop asking yourself, will I work out today? The same way you stop asking yourself, will I brush my teeth today? It becomes part of who you are, not something you have to motivate yourself into. But you have to pay the price first, in private, in the quiet moments, in the days when nobody's counting and nobody cares. The people who are willing to pay that price are the ones who build lives that look effortless from the outside, because by the time anyone's watching, the effort has already been done. Pay the price, in private, consistently. The returns are public. Eventually, we've romanticized discipline. We imagine it as some fierce, warrior-like state. Someone waking at 4 a.m., sprinting in the rain, cold showers, grinding with intensity every single moment. And for some people, some of the time, it looks like that. But real sustainable discipline is far less dramatic, and understanding what it actually looks like is one of the most important shifts you can make. Discipline is not intensity. Discipline is reliability. It's not the one incredible week where you trained every day and ate perfectly and slept 8 hours. It's the quiet Tuesday 3 months later when nothing is exciting anymore. The habit isn't new, nobody's asking about your progress, and you do the work anyway. That Tuesday is discipline. Discipline is also small, smaller than most people think. It's not about overhauling your entire life in a single week. It's about identifying the 2 or 3 things that actually matter, the non-negotiables, and protecting them fiercely. Because here's what happens when people try to change everything at once. They burn out in 2 weeks. They go from doing nothing to doing everything, and their system collapses under the weight of its own ambition. Then they feel like failures. And the story they tell themselves becomes, I tried and it didn't work, rather than, I overloaded the system and need to start smaller. Start smaller. One habit, practiced consistently, until it becomes automatic. Then add another. Discipline is also about environment more than willpower. Willpower is finite. It depletes throughout the day. Relying on willpower alone to maintain discipline is like trying to hold a door shut against the wind with your bare hands. You can do it for a while, but eventually your arms give out. But if you build the right environment, if you remove friction from good habits and add friction to bad ones, you're no longer fighting against yourself. You're designing a life where the right choice is also the easy choice. Put the book on your pillow so you read before sleeping. Lay out your workout clothes the night before. Remove the apps that steal your attention. Structure your environment so that the person you want to become is the path of least resistance. Discipline isn't about having more willpower than other people. It's about being strategic enough that you don't have to use as much of it. There will come a time, and if you're honest with yourself, maybe that time is right now, when you are working hard and nothing seems to be happening. You're showing up. You're doing the work. You're staying consistent. And yet the results aren't visible. The recognition isn't there. The breakthrough you've been waiting for hasn't come. And the silence around your effort starts to feel like confirmation of your worst fear. That maybe you're not good enough. That maybe it's not going to work. That maybe you should stop. This season has a name. It's the season of invisible growth. And almost everyone who has ever built something meaningful has passed through it. A farmer doesn't dig up his seeds every 3 days to check if they're growing. He knows the process. He knows that between planting and harvest, there is a long stretch of nothing visible. And that the nothing visible is not nothing. It's everything. It's roots forming, structures developing, the entire foundation of what's coming, being quietly assembled underground. Your hard seasons work the same way. When nobody sees your effort, you're learning self-motivation. When nobody validates your progress, you're building self-belief. When nobody encourages you, you're developing the internal strength that will hold you steady when you eventually face real pressure. These are not wasted seasons. These are the seasons that determine what kind of person shows up when the season finally changes. Because seasons always change. That's the nature of them. The hard ones don't last forever. But neither do the easy ones. The question is not whether the season will change. It will. The question is, who will you be when it does? The people who made it through the invisible season, who kept working when it was quiet, who kept believing when there was no evidence. They arrive at the next season transformed, not just with better results, but with a depth of character that can only be built in the difficulty. And the people who quit during the invisible season, they never find out what was about to happen. They leave just before the roots break through the surface. So if you're in a quiet season right now, keep going. Not blindly, not recklessly, but intentionally. Keep showing up. Keep paying the price. Keep building what nobody can see yet, because it's coming. The harvest always follows the planting. Here's a question worth sitting with. Are you chasing a goal, or are you becoming a person? Because those two approaches lead to very different lives. When you chase a goal, your entire focus is on the outcome, the number on the scale, the amount in the bank account, the title, the achievement, the milestone. And when you reach it, if you reach it, there's a brief moment of satisfaction. And then it fades, and you're left looking for the next goal, the next target, the next thing to chase. This is why so many people achieve what they set out to achieve and still feel empty, because they were focused entirely on the destination and forgot to become someone different along the way. The other approach is different. Instead of asking, how do I reach this goal, you ask, who do I need to become? Instead of, how do I lose 20 pounds, you ask, what does a healthy person do every day? And then you start doing those things. Not to hit a number, but to build an identity. Instead of, how do I make more money, you ask, what does a financially disciplined person do with what they earn? And then you start doing those things. Not for a specific outcome, but to become a specific kind of person. When your identity shifts, behavior change stops being a battle, because you're no longer forcing yourself to act against your nature. You're simply acting in alignment with who you now believe yourself to be. This is what it means to become unstoppable. Not to become perfect, not to never struggle or fail or doubt, but to build such a clear sense of who you are, what you stand for, how you show up, that setbacks stop defining you and start refining you. Every challenge that doesn't break you is a piece of evidence that you're exactly who you think you are. Every hard day you push through adds another layer to the identity you're constructing. And the beautiful thing about identity-based change is that it compounds in the same way good habits do. The clearer your sense of who you are, the easier it is to make decisions that align with it. The easier those decisions become, the more consistent your actions are. The more consistent your actions are, the stronger the identity becomes. It's a loop, a positive, compounding, unstoppable loop. But it starts with a decision about who you're going to be, not what you're going to get. Everything in our world is designed to make you impatient. Instant delivery, overnight results, 30-day transformations, 10 steps to success. The entire structure of modern life is optimized for speed, and it has quietly rewired the way we think about change. We expect results on a timeline that has nothing to do with how growth actually works. And then when the results don't come in 30 days, or 60, or 90, we assume something is wrong with the plan, with ourselves, with the goal. We pivot, or we quit, or we find a new strategy that promises faster results. And the cycle starts again. This is one of the most expensive habits a person can have, because meaningful change, the kind that actually lasts, the kind that transforms a life rather than just adjusting it slightly, operates on a different timeline entirely. A year from now, you will either be grateful you started today, or you'll still be wishing you had started a year ago. The people who build remarkable lives are not the ones who found the fastest strategy. They're the ones who found a good strategy and stayed with it long enough for it to work. Long enough for the compounding to kick in. Long enough to outlast the doubt, the boredom, the plateaus, and the moments where quitting seemed perfectly rational. Patience is not passive. That's the thing most people misunderstand about it. Patient people are not sitting around waiting for something to happen. They are working, consistently, persistently, without needing immediate validation that it's all going to pay off. They trust the process deeply enough to stay in it through the parts that don't feel productive. And there will be parts that don't feel productive. There will be stretches where you feel like you're running in place, where you're putting in the same effort but getting different results, where progress seems to have stalled. Stay anyway, because usually the breakthrough doesn't come gradually, it comes suddenly, after a long period of invisible accumulation. And the only people who get to experience it are the ones who didn't leave before it happened. The long game is not glamorous. It requires you to be okay with being misunderstood, overlooked, and unrecognized for stretches of time that can feel unreasonably long. It requires trusting a process whose results you cannot yet see. But the people who play it, they build things that last. Play the long game. One of the hardest things you will ever do is keep going when nobody is watching. Not because the work is harder without an audience, but because without external validation, you are forced to find the reason inside yourself. And for most people, that internal fuel is the hardest to locate and the most important to develop. When people are watching, motivation is easy. When people are praising you, discipline feels natural. When results are visible and others are commenting and the feedback loop is working, showing up is almost effortless. But take away the audience, take away the recognition, take away the visible progress and the encouraging words and the external proof that it's working. Now what? Who are you when nobody's watching? What do you do when nobody's going to know? How do you show up when showing up earns you nothing in the short term? This is the real test. Not talent, not intelligence, not strategy. The ability to keep moving forward in the absence of external fuel. And here's the good news. It's a skill. Like any skill, it can be built. The more you practice doing the work without the applause, the less you need the applause. The more you validate your own effort, the less you wait for others to validate it for you. The more you learn to find meaning in the process rather than the recognition, the more unstoppable you become. Because if your drive comes from inside you, nobody can take it away. I want to end with something simple. Not a list of steps, not a formula, just a thought worth carrying with you. Every single day, you are in the process of becoming someone. There's no pause button, there's no neutral. Every day you wake up, make choices, act or avoid action, show up or back down, and each of those moments is adding a brushstroke to the portrait of the person you are becoming. The question isn't whether you're becoming someone. You already are. The question is, are you being intentional about who that person is? Because left to defaults, left to the path of least resistance, to comfort, to avoidance, to the habits that feel easiest in the moment, most people become a slightly diminished version of what they were capable of. Not through failure, not through catastrophe, simply through the slow accumulation of choosing ease over growth, day after day. But it works in the other direction too, through the slow accumulation of choosing growth over ease, day after day, in small ways and large ones. A person can become something that would have seemed impossible to the version of themselves who started. That person is available to you, right now, not someday, not after you figure everything out, not once the circumstances improve. Now, every good decision you make today is a vote for the person you're becoming. Every time you do the work when you don't want to, you cast another vote. Every time you choose honesty over excuses, action over waiting, discipline over comfort, another vote. And the person with the most votes wins. So here's what I'm asking you to do. Not tomorrow, not next week, today. Look at the life you want. Look at the person you need to become to build it. And take one step toward that person right now. Not the perfect step, not the final step, just one step forward. Because the journey of 1,000 miles doesn't begin with motivation or inspiration or the perfect moment. It begins with a single step, taken by a person who finally decided to stop waiting. That person is you. Now go build something worth being proud of. No excuses, no waiting, just you, becoming unstoppable.